so in this session we're looking at sleeve possibilities in a little bit more detail. If you look at the wall charts as well, they will also give you these instructions that I'm about to show that also give you more ideas about what you can do with the sleeve. So let's have a look at how we would like to start. So whatever you're going to do with your sleeve, you're going to want to know where that centre line is. So I would suggest that before you trace around your sleeve, you give yourself a centre line. If you're using spot and cross, I would say go with a line that's ready on your spot and cross, but draw on top of it. So if I do that, it means I can have the centre line pointing out at the wrist and out at the top of the sleeve, and I can trace around it before I start to do any adaptations. So let's just trace around this. Mark on all its notches. For most of what we're going to do today, we're going to be pretty much ignoring the elbow dart and just working on making silhouettes. There we go. So we have our centre line, our sleeve. It's easy then to put on the horizontal lines that you might want to know, which are the elbow line and the underarm line. So we're ready. We're ready to do something exciting. Well, let me just put a straight line across the wrist from the underarm seam to the underarm seam. That is how you'll prep your block for almost anything that you're going to want to do. So I'm just going to put that to one side for the moment so we can have a look at what can happen with sleeves. So one of the things we're going to look at is the idea of adding volume and where you might add volume, and once you've got that volume, what you might want to do with it. So if I just draw a shoulder there, we have an arm. So sleeves, they can be any length at all. They can come to the wrist. They can be this length, this length, this length. They can be elbow length. Once you get above the elbow, they can be any length, right up to a tiny little cap sleeve. So that's one of the things that's interesting about a sleeve in terms of design, is what length you're going to have it. So we've got what length we're going to have it. Then we can start to talk about what fullness it might have. So you can have a sleeve with fullness at the top that comes to here. You can have a sleeve with fullness at the bottom edge that is creating a flare that's longer at the back than the front. Arm comes down through here. You could have, I could go on and on and on and on. We can have a sleeve that has fullness at the top and flare in it as it comes down, and again that could be almost any length. We could have a sleeve that has fullness at the top, fullness at the bottom, and that fullness is gathered into a cuff. Okay, so I suppose you're getting the gist really, that a lot of what's going to happen in terms of manipulation of a sleeve block is adding fullness in and changing the silhouette. I would say if you have a look in your Winifred Aldridge metric pattern cutting, there are lots of examples of what you can do with sleeves. So beyond what I'm showing you, if sleeves are an area of interest to you, you can have a look at Winifred Aldridge and see what fabulous things she suggests, or indeed any other pattern cutting book that you might particularly like. I also like to think that the things that you learn when you're making a sleeve in terms of adding fullness, you can apply to all sorts of other bits of a garment. If you think of a skirt, or you think of a dress, or you think of a trouser leg, these are all basically tubes that you put your body in, or parts of your body in, and it's no different with a sleeve. So we're taking the tube that fits your arm, the sleeve, and we're doing interesting things with it in terms of silhouette. And just keep in mind while you're doing this, what else you could do these techniques with to make interesting shaped garments. Okay, so put that to one side and we'll go back to our sleeve that we have here. I guess it might be nice to start with one of the long sleeves. So let's have a look at this. One of the long sleeves that we've done, I'm going to draw it in the middle of this actually, why not? So I'm going to do a sleeve that is got a flare on it and it's longer at the back than it is at the front. So it's going to sit smooth at the top and create a bell shape. That bell shape could be, of course, gathered into a cuff. So you could mix up what you've learned about the shirt sleeve and what you're learning with this. You could combine the two and make a really full shirt sleeve. Okay, so the techniques we're going to use, you're kind of familiar with. So to make this sleeve, we are going to slash into this block. And what we're going to do to create this shape is we're going to slash right up to the head. So I'm going to give myself some lines. I'm just going to give myself lines at roughly the ruler's width. You can do them fuller than this if you like. I'm not going to take the fullness that I'm creating into the underarm. I tend to keep the underarm of my sleeve fairly still, if you like. Because we're going for something that's really full, I'm going to widen the bottom of the sleeve anyway by dropping it a right angle down from the underarm line. I'll do that on the front edge and the back edge. So we've got a nice straight sleeve to work from, and we've got, I've just given myself 5 slashes, one on the centre line and 2 others, 2 to the front, 2 to the back. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut straight the way up through those lines. Now our aim with this particular pattern is that we're keeping the sleeve head exactly the same size. We're not adding any fullness into it, but we're not subtracting any either. So what you're going to need to do is, much like you've done with other items, the stand collar for instance, we are going to cut from this bottom edge, which is where the fullness is going to go, right the way up to the sleeve head, right to that line. So we're cutting up to the head of the sleeve line, but not beyond it. And one more time. There we go. So I'm I'm just going to get a piece of paper ready to go under this, because it'll be in a fairly delicate state soon. Okay, I think you can see from what's naturally happening what we're going to be doing in a moment. I need to do one more thing actually that I forgot. I keep going on about the centre line, but I completely ignored it. I'm going to draw on this paper that I'm placing my manipulation on a line, which is going to be the new centre line for the sleeve. Okay, now, as you know, you might know you know, but you do know, to be able to spread this efficiently and to keep this line exactly as it is now, I now need to cut down towards those slashes that I've made. What I'm going to do, first off, is I'm going to slash down to the slash that I made at the centre line, and that's going to be my first one that I'm going to twiddle with. So if I have the old centre line against my new centre line, I forgot to bring my sellotape. That's irritating. I'm going to have to hold your breath for a second while I wander about. Okay, I'm back with my sellotape, and I'm going to spread this out. And what I'm aiming to do, and what I'm going to do in fact, is make sure that I've got these pieces that have been spread out at an equal distance to either side of that centre line. And by doing that, I'm maintaining the centre line. So let me pop a bit of sellotape there. And then I'm going to measure at the bottom to check that these are equal distances from... Oh God, yeah, that was a lucky guess, I think. I'm just going to pop something to stick those in place. Right, I'm going to pop this up the other way now because it's got something that will support it. I'm going to take that measurement of what happened on the half, which was 7, and oh, sorry, I need to cut down to the other slashes. So I'm coming down from the top now to the sleeve head, and I'm slipping down to the end of the slash that I made in the other direction, so coming up from the wrist to the head. There we go. Now I can twizzle it and be able to manipulate what's going on down at the bottom here. Can you see now I can spread these out and not alter the length of the armhole, or the sleeve head, sorry. But what you will notice is happening is that more I spread these, the flatter it becomes, and that's what you want to happen. So that's not wrong, that's what we're looking for. So I've decided, relatively randomly, that 7 centimetres is the spread I want on the edge here, on the wrist edge. Another 7 centimetres. These don't have to be exactly the same. You will get variances in what the sleeve does depending on whether these are all equal or not. I would say start with them equal so you can know how you like what's happening. I'm going to give myself another 7 here, making sure it's lying flat at the top, which that one isn't just at the moment. There you go. Seven. And I expect you've guessed, I'm going to go for another 7 here. You could stop at that point. You could say, that's it, that's what I want my sleeve to do. You could then trace that off, and that would be your new sleeve pattern. But we're going to get a little bit more saucy than that here, a little bit more complicated, because the sleeve that I drew back at the beginning, let me draw it again because I've cut through it. The sleeve that I drew is coming down in a bell shape. It's being slightly shorter at the front and slightly longer at the back, and then the hand's coming out through there. What this would give me at the moment something that was full and straight round in the hem. So let's have a look at how we can alter what we have here. For now, I'm just going to trace a line that joins up all the wrist lines that have been split by the slashing and spreading, so we can see what that would look like if it was going to be a fairly straightforward sleeve like this one. But we're looking for something a little bit shorter at the front, a little bit longer at the back. We are going to find the midpoint at the back, because the back's what we want lower. Remember, you can tell the back, the sleeve, because it's got the double notch. Find the midpoint, which is here. Lovely. And we're going to find the midpoint at the front. The front, remember, has single notches, sometimes 2 of them, but they're single notches. And we're marking. So I think the difference between the front and the back on there is probably about 15 centimetres. Let's go with 15 centimetres. So what I'm going to do at the front is I'm going to raise the front at that centre point by 5, and on the back edge I'm going to drop the hem by 10. And what I now need to do, and I'm going to do it in pencil first, from our centre point I'm going to draw a line that goes up through to the height at the front, and then I'm going to drop it back down so that at the underarm seam it hits the underarm seam right on the edge where the hem was, the wrist edge. So on the back I now am starting from the wrist edge on that seam, and I'm dropping lower and I'm raising it. And what I want to check, but I need to get it a bit more firm. You know, we talked about run-throughs when we were looking at the facings. We're going to want a nice run-through from the front to the back. But I just want a bit more stability in this, because I'm going to have to fold it. So I'm folding this as if it was being sewn together, matching those up, and yeah, it's not bad actually, is it? You can see that would come down and it would run in to there. I'm just going to lower that little bit, and I'm going to smooth it off there, because I like that run. That's us done and sorted for that. I'm pleased with that. That's our sleeve pattern. We now need to trace this off, add seam allowance, and add whatever hem. I would say for this hem, you're going to put, because it's such a curve, you're going to do a really small turn and turn hem, again hem, which is sometimes known as a pin hem. So imagine I've traced this off. You would be adding just a centimetre around the lower edge, and you'd be turning up 0.5 and then 0.5 again. You could of course overlock it and turn it up, but one of the reasons I'm not so keen on it being overlocked and turned up is you'd be able to see the overlocking here, because you can see inside the sleeve. Anywho, that's it. If you then wanted to make this into this slash and spread into a full shirt sleeve, you wouldn't do this edge, but you would work out where your opening was, and you might shorten it very slightly at the front and very slightly at the back. But yeah, that's something for you to play with. On the wall charts, the worksheets, it does give you an example of that. Okay, thank you.